Welcome back to our C Sharp beginner tutorial. In the previous lesson, I think we looked at, let me check that. We looked at interfaces, yes. In today's class, we're going to look at, or in today's lesson, we're going to look at subclasses. So let me just bring up Notepad. Okay, so we're going to look at subclasses, plural or subclass singular. So what are subclasses? Basically, if you have a class, okay, suppose we have a class called A, for example. If you want to create a class, that you want to create another class called B, okay, that has every single member that A possesses, okay, with some extra additions, right? So what you do or what you need, the easiest way to create class B is simply to create a subclass of class A. So if you make make B to be a subclass of A, then by default, right from your creation of B, you have already made it to have every single member that A has. Okay. I don't know if this is making any sense, but when we start, when we go into Visual Studio and start coding, I think it will make more sense. So let me put it another way. Apart from calling it a subclass, you could also say if you extend A. So for example, you have a class A, okay? If you extend A to create B, you already have B at creation. Already B possess every single thing that A has. So it's left for you to add the extra details that you want B to have that A doesn't have, okay? I still don't know if this is making any sense, but let's go into Visual Studio, and when we start writing the code, I'm sure it will make a lot of sense, or it will make more sense, okay? So let's go ahead and start Visual Studio. I'll just create a new project. I'll choose console application C sharp, okay, and I'll put it in the desktop where we usually keep our projects. Okay, so I'll create another folder here. I'll call it subclasses basics. Okay, maybe I'll remove the space to keep it. Okay, and then we select that folder and we call it subclasses basics, and I go ahead and click on create, and it creates our solution and our project. Yeah, and I'll just go ahead and get rid of this console dot right now. Okay, so we have our project set up. So let's see. Let's at the beginning first. Let's create a class. Okay. Alternatively, you remember in the previous exactly. I think this is a good time to start showing you some extra way to create classes or to import classes. Okay, so you imagine you've already created a class in a previous maybe you were making a game, okay, and in the game you created some dragons, you created some birds. You remember our previous where we looked at interfaces, we created three classes, right? So imagine you want to use the same instead of creating another class again or right from scratch. You remember, oh, you already created a game where you used dragons, and you would like to use those same dragons again in your new game, right? Instead of writing the class from scratch, you could actually just go to your previous project and just import the class that you created. Okay, so here here I'm going to show you, instead of going to project and add a new class, you could actually import or bring in an already existing class that you've already created in a previous work, provided you know where the source file is. Okay, remember I told you class is the way, that's in fact that's another advantage of having each of your class in a separate source file. Remember, if you have each class in a separate source file, it means that if you're going to import a particular class, all you need to do is just import that particular source file, right? So if we all we want we're interested in is just the dragons, we don't want the aeroplanes, we don't want the birds, we just go and import the source file that contains the dragon class. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that. So you go to project, instead of clicking on add class or add new item, what you do is you select add existing item. Okay, so here it is, add existing item. Now it's going to bring up this dialog box whereby I'm supposed to look for, or I'm supposed to search for where the source file is. Okay, remember I told you the source file is just a normal text file, just that it ends with the .cs extension. And since I know where my source file is, remember all our projects, we've been putting them on the desktop. So if I go to desktop, I enter my apps folder. It was in interface basics. It was in this project that we created the 3 different classes. So I'll go in there. I'll go into interfaces basics, and yes, we'll go into here again, and you can see inside here, you can see all the different source files that we have inside this project. Okay, so we have the aeroplane.cs, we have the bird.cs. By the way, let me just show you something. If you open this with Notepad, okay, I'll just right click, I choose open with, and I choose Notepad. Okay, notice what I told you. It is just normal text. Okay, there's nothing special about this. It's just normal text. It's just that it's C# code in it. Okay, and usually when we save it with a .cs extension instead of a .txt. Okay, so that's just it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to import the dragon class, dragon.cs, even though there's nothing interesting. I just inside the code of the dragon.cs. Okay, it's just that I just wanted to show you how to import an already existing source file. So we select the dragon.cs source file and we click add. Okay, and that's it. You will, if you look at your solutions explorer on the right, you will already see that you have your dragon.cs imported, and you have that source file, and inside the dragon.cs source file you can see that you already have your dragon class. Aha, exactly. This brings us to what we call dependencies. Okay, dependencies. Let me just go to Notepad. So dependencies is spelled this way, dependencies. Okay, so what are dependencies? Right now, dependencies are just as the name implies, they are like they are things that your classes depend on. Okay, or your source file depends on. Okay, so suppose you have, in fact, we've already created one, so no need to give an example. We'll just go ahead and use the dragon class. You notice that when we created the dragon class, you remember, we actually we said it implements an iFlyable interface, right? Now, notice what happens. In this project, we do not have an iFlyable interface, right? But we're telling the compiler that this dragon class right, implements an iFlyable. So how does it know what the iFlyable interface looks like? There's no way for it to know, okay? So that means that the iFlyable interface is a dependency of the dragon class, okay? Now it means that when you have dependencies, okay, usually dependencies are bad in program. Well, not necessarily bad per se, but you want to always limit your dependencies, okay? It's not good to have all your classes like interdependent on each other, okay? Like for example, in this case, when we created the dragon class, you remember it was a necessity for us to make it implement the iFlyable interface, okay? Because we had a particular problem where we needed a variable that could store the three different types of not this again. Okay, sorry about that. We needed a variable that could hold three different types of variable, three different types. That's the dragon, the bird, and the aeroplane. Okay, so we needed this dependency. Okay, now in order to use this dragon class in this project, it is telling us that it doesn't know iFlyable because iFlyable is a dependency, so we have to include the dependency. So that's the whole thing I'm trying to explain. If you import a class, you have to make sure you provide or import all its dependencies. So you can see like it already gives you a hint that that's a reason why you do not want a class to depend on so many different things, okay? You want to limit you always want to limit the dependencies, because if you're going to import the class like we've just done, the moment you import the class, you are it's necessary for that class to be used in your program, in your new project. You have to provide all the dependencies, okay? So in order to avoid you having to import so many different things, some of which you might not need, okay, it's always good to make sure your dependencies are as limited as possible, okay? So all this I'm saying is that we're going to need to import the iFlyable interface, okay? And alternatively, we could, okay, just to show you that importing the iFlyable interface will make that go away, I'll just go ahead and go to project and choose add existing item and click on iFlyable.cs, which is an interface, and click add. And the moment we add the iFlyable interface, you can see that that goes away, okay? All right, I just wanted to show you that, but for this class we're treating subclasses, and I don't want us to use this for now, so I'll just go ahead and remove that. I'll delete the iFlyable, so I'll say delete, and it will say will be deleted permanently. I'll say okay, yeah, do that. So I've removed the iFlyable, which will allow our dragon.cs to start complaining again that it doesn't know what iFlyable is. Yeah, so we're going to say it does not implement the iFlyable interface, okay? Okay, fine. So we have a normal dragon, but it usually it has a fly. Maybe I'll remove that. But for now, we're not really interested in what the dragon does. We just want to show how to create a subclass. So for now, I'll just leave the class as it is. Okay. So good. So we have a dragon class. Okay. So we're making a game, right? We have a normal dragon. Okay. So we have a normal dragon. However, what we want in this our game is we actually want two different types of dragons. Okay, we want a normal dragon that has all the properties of a dragon. Okay, so for example, it can okay, I'll change this and I'll say it can public void Okay, let's leave it. Let's just say it can fly. Okay, suppose all normal dragons can fly, for instance. We'll just take that for now. So every normal dragon can fly. So this dragon can fly. That's this dragon class that we've created. Allow all the objects, all the dragon objects we're going to create from this class are going to be able to fly. Okay. Um, what we need in our game, like I said, is we want two different types of dragons. We want the dragons that can fly, that's one. Then we want other special types of dragons. They do not just fly. Um, by the way, I'm just going to move this. I'll say glide, glide, glide. There's a reason. Um, glide, glide, glide. Okay. So what I want is these particular types of dragons can fly. They can only glide, glide, glide. Okay. And we want another type of dragon or another class of dragon that can actually fly and they can also breathe fire. Okay, so they can glide, 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 and they can also breathe fire. Okay, so instead of creating a new class of dragons and call them fire breathing dragons, and then go ahead and do whatever I have in here. I implement it again inside. Of course, that is still going to work. I implement it inside the new class. What I can do is I can actually extend this class, right? When I extend this dragon class, by default, the moment I create that second class, by default, even without writing this, those dragons could fly. Okay, so I'll just show you that. So we're going to go to project, add class, and I'll choose, I'll name the class and I'll call it fire breathing dragons. Fire breathing dragon. Okay, so I'll call it fire breathing dragon and I'll choose add. Okay, now by default, if you create your classes, remember it comes this way. I'll make it public and it just comes like this. Okay, fire breathing dragon, it's a fresh class. But what we actually want to do is we want to extend this class so that our fire breathing dragons are will be our fire breathing dragon will be a subclass of the dragon class. So how do we make the fire breathing class to be a subclass of dragon class? Remember the way we implemented an interface? It's the same syntax. You use a colon, okay? And what this is saying, remember when we implemented an interface, the meaning of the colon was implements, okay? So it's like saying when we created the dragon, dragon implements iFlyable, okay? In this case, for the fire breathing dragon, what it's saying is that fire breathing dragon extends, okay? This colon means extends, and I'll write dragon, okay? Why are we having colon? The type or namespace dragon could not be found. Okay, remember our namespaces. Remember our namespaces. Look at this namespace. The namespace where we create this fire breathing dragon is subclasses basics. Okay, remember when we created our dragon, it was in interfaces basics and it had the namespace interfaces basics. So I hope you can remember how to make this dragon available to us now. The one way is we could actually say interfaces basics dot and say dragon, and that will work fine. Or better, a better way we could do it is we could just come here and say using interfaces basics, okay, and we use, don't forget your semicolon. All right, so by doing that, we have our dragon available to us, and notice what we're doing. We're saying public class fire breathing dragon extends dragon. So the fire breathing dragon class now, even without writing anything, okay, even without writing anything, it already has this fly method. Okay, it already has this fly method. Okay, and everything the dragon class does already. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have removed that interface that the dragon implements, because I would have liked to show you that, because the dragon class implements the iFlyable interface. By default, the fire breathing class also kind of has that secretly. Okay, even though we do not say it implements the iFlyable, if we had allowed the dragon class to implement the iFlyable, you'll see that the fire breathing dragon class automatically implements the iFlyable. But for now, let's just, maybe we'll leave it for a future lesson. Okay, so for this lesson, we'll just focus on the basics of subclasses. Okay, so yeah, the fire breathing dragon class extends the dragon class, which means everything that the dragon class has, the fire breathing dragon class has. Also, we'll add one more thing for the fire breathing class. We'll say public void breathe fire. So this is a method, breathe fire, and we'll just create an implementation, console dot write line, and we'll just say fire. Okay, so when we call this method, this is what's going to happen. Okay, so let's go to our program class and make some and just write output some things to, or implement some things to make us know, so that we're sure that yes, our fire breathing class, fire breathing dragon class actually has what the dragon class has. So if we go to program.cs, what we're going to do is we're going to create a fire breathing dragon. Okay, so fire breathing dragon, we'll call it dragon 2 or dragon 1 equals new. So we're creating a fire breathing dragon here, and after creating the fire breathing dragon, we're going to say dragon. Remember, we stored it inside, we created the object and we stored the object inside this variable. So we're going to say dragon1 dot, notice what you have there. You see the breathe fire that we created, right? We created it here. Here it is. Now notice what happens for the dragon1. Apart from the breathe fire, do you notice the fly method? You can actually call the fly method, even though we did not create the fly method inside the fire breathing class, fire breathing dragon class explicitly. Okay, it's inherits. Okay, so let's go back to notepad. That's a keyword, and then I want you to take note of. So I'll write it inheritance. I'm sure you must have been hearing inheritance in object-oriented programming. So this, what inheritance is. What happened is was that the fire breathing dragon class inherits every single thing that the dragon class has. So the only thing we have in the dragon class is this fly method. So the fire breathing dragon class inherits that fly method, and that is why when we say dragon1 dot, we are able to say dragon1 dot breathe fire first. That's for what we created in the fire breathing dragon class, and we can also say dragon1 dot fly, which was inherited from the dragon class. Okay, so I'll just save this, save all, and we'll just run this for just for viewing sake. So you can see that it does that, and it does this. That's it does what it flies. Okay, it does what the dragon class actually provides. So that's basically what a subclass is. But for subclasses, this is just the basics. This is the beginning lesson. I think we should probably end this lesson here, and we'll look at, because when we start looking subclasses, when we start looking at subclasses, there is so much there's so much should I say complications. Yeah, there are so much complications in there that I think it's probably best we separate them into minor chunks so that we treat each chunk separately. So basically what we've seen here, what I've tried to show us here is that whatever you create, or whatever member you have inside the a class, say class A, if you make a class B, X, which is a subclass of that class A, whatever member that class A has, class B is going to inherit that member, and then is going to also add those members to in addition, add the members that you explicitly create in class B are going to be added to the members of that class A, and all the sets of those members are going to be the members of class B. Okay. I don't know if I got you confused there, but basically what happens is that whatever A possesses, when you say B is a subclass of A, B is going to possess those members, okay? And then included, if you add any other thing in B, B is also going to have that. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this lesson here, and we'll look at more subclasses in the next class.